Heavy rains in Palestine worsen the critical humanitarian situation displaced people, victims of Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip. Venezuela described as an outburst the petition made by Guyana before the International Court of Justice, seeking to prevent the holding of the referendum in the Ecuador. In Ecuador, citizens organized a sit-in rally in rejection of the electricity cuts by the Lasso government. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Heavy rains in Palestine are worsening the critical humanitarian situation of displaced people who have fallen victims to Israel attacks on the Gaza Strip. The National Meteorological Department warned the region will be affected over the next few days by a low pressure area accompanied by rain and will experience a drop in temperatures. It also informed that strong winds and rainfall caused the collapse and damage of a limited number of tents in several areas of southern Gaza. In Palestine, health authorities warned that the few hospitals that are still open could close in the next 48 hours due to the lack of fuel because of Israeli siege. According to the latest information, medical centers in the north of the Strip have already stopped working, including Al-Shifa and Al-Quds hospitals, the two largest in the territory. Also, the Palestinian Red Crescent announced on Tuesday that the only power generator, Al-Aman Hospital, located in the southern city of Khan Younis, was shut down, preventing medical personnel from continuing to treat patients. To date, more than 20 of the 35 hospitals on the Strip have been shut down since the beginning of the attacks on October 7th. More than 11,000 Palestinians have been killed in the ongoing Israeli shellings of Gaza. In Palestine, more than 600,000 students have been unable to exercise their right to education due to the closure of schools and suspension of classes as a result of the Israeli siege against the Gaza Strip. In addition, the airstrikes and raids that Tel Aviv maintains against Palestine have prevented more than 1,700 teachers from arriving at educational centers. According to the Palestinian Center Statistics Office, in the beginning of the siege last October 7th, more than 3,000 students have been killed during the shelling, while more than at least 5,000 have been injured. In addition, more than 230 public schools have been bombed by the Israeli forces, of which 45 were destroyed, and another 50 were schools run by the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees. A New York civil liberties group is suing Joe Biden and another government official for allegedly failing in the duties on the international and U.S. laws to prevent Israel committing genocide in the Gaza. The nonprofit labor organization Center for Constitutional Rights filed on behalf of several Palestinian organizations and individuals a lawsuit against the U.S. President and the Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Lloyd Austin. The lawsuit asks the court to bar the U.S. from providing weapons, money, and diplomatic support to Israel. It also seeks a declaration to urge the President, the Secretary of State, and the Defense Secretary to take all measures within their power to prevent Israeli commissions of genocidal acts against the Palestinian people of Gaza. In Netherlands, citizens took over the Amsterdam Schiphol International Airport in support of Palestine. According to local media, demonstrators took over the airport facilities to demand a ceasefire from Israel on the Gaza Strip, while urging the international community to take action to stop the situation in Palestine. As well as Israeli forces continue to suffocate the citizens of Gaza through shelling, energy, and food blockades. Finally, since the beginning of Operation Al-Qasad Deluge, more than 11,000 Palestinians have been killed by the attacks of the Tel Aviv regime forces. The government of Belize announced on Tuesday a package of measures against the government of Israel for the genocide that Tel Aviv is carrying out against the citizens of the Gaza Strip. The measures include the withdrawal of concern for the accreditation of H.E.A. Nagrans Niger, ambassador of Belize to the United Nations, and Nagrans Niger, ambassador designate of Israel to Belize, the suspension of all activity of the honorary consulate of Israel in Belize and of Belize in Tel Aviv, the appointment of the honorary consul, the withdrawal of the appointment of its honorary consul, and the withdrawal of its application for the accreditation of Mr. Jonathan Enaf, as honorary consul of Belize. Belize renewed its call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, unimpeded access to humanitarian supplies to Gaza, and the release of all hostages. And we go live with Honorable Imo Kearney, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belize. The government of Belize, hello, sir, how are you?
Good evening. I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me to come on your show.
Okay. The government of Belize recently suspended relations with Israel to the unjust genocide that is happening in the Gaza Strip. And the government condemned the actions of Israel in the Gaza Strip, and therefore the government took some four measures to take immediate effects. What can you explain? Can you explain a bit more about these measures?
Certainly. We took 4 measures today as a result of a decision made by our cabinet and parliamentary representatives in the House of Representatives, which was taken yesterday. The first measure we took was to revoke the approval of the designated ambassador of Israel to Belize. She did not formally present her credentials, but we have now revoked the approval that we had given for her to come to Belize and to present her credentials. The second measure we took was to suspend the right of the honorary consul of Israel, who lives in Belize, from continuing to represent the interests of Israel and Israelis in Belize. Thirdly, we suspended the right of our honorary consul in Israel from continuing to perform his functions in Israel. We had sought approval of the Israeli government for a second honorary consul to be appointed in Israel, and we have withdrawn that request. The effect of these 4 measures is that at present time, there will be no diplomatic contact between Belize and Israel through established diplomatic channels. These measures, I must emphasize, stop short of us formally suspending or revoking relations with Israel.
How were the trade relations between both countries?
Well, we do not have much trade at all between Israel and Belize. It is very small. Israel is, as you know, quite far away from Central America, and there is very little trade between the two countries. Indeed, there is very little cooperation between Israel and Belize in terms of cooperation from the Israeli government to Belize, to Belizeans. Our relations and our contacts are primarily through diplomatic channels.
And do you believe that the government's decision could be an inflection point to encourage other countries to do the same?
Well, at this stage, all I can say is I hope so. The government of Belize took the decision that it took to implement these measures with immediate effect because, first of all, we believe that what is happening in Gaza is a gross violation of international law, international humanitarian law, and the human rights of the Gazans who are resident in the Gaza Strip. We believe that we, as a member of the international community, have an obligation to do anything that we can to encourage Israel to stop the actions that it has been taking in Israel, stop violating international law, stop operating as an apartheid state, stop operating as a genocidal state. The best way for us to do that is by the measures that we have taken, which are diplomatic measures. I believe, and the government of Belize believes, that it is past time that all countries consider what measures it can take to persuade the Israeli government to stop what it is doing, to implement an immediate ceasefire. Secondly, to allow relief workers and relief aid to get into Gaza to alleviate human suffering. And of course, to ensure that the siege that it has imposed on Gaza comes to an immediate end. We are talking about the lives of human beings, and the actions since the 7th of October by Israel are unjustifiable and gross violations of law.
Thank you, Imo Kearney, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belize, for your time and your comments.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
And we continue with more news. It has been more than a month since the Israeli army began its attacks on the Gaza Strip, which have caused the death of more than 10,000 civilians. These attacks even target presidential areas. Let's watch a report of our correspondent Huda Hegazi on one of these latest attacks.
We found ourselves in front of the house of the family Abu Huda, one of the houses that have been shelled in a deliberate act here in the governorate of Khan Yunis. This house, which is right next to the Nasser hospital of this governorate, was shelled by the missiles of the Israeli occupation army. Approximately 2 a.m. when its inhabitants, the residents of this house, as well as the neighbors, were sleeping peaceful in their homes. We will now proceed to talk to one of the neighbors to tell us exactly what happened in this attack. Hello? Please, can you tell me what happened after this attack and where were you?
We were outside the house during the attack because this house was kind of targeted by the Israeli aggression. Without notice and without any warning, they shelled the houses. The shelling caused partial damage to this house, but other nearby houses were completely destroyed, and several martyrs and several wounded fell.
As we can see, it happened without warning. The planes of the occupation army proceed to attack this house, which we can see how it has been completely destroyed. In this attack, at least 3 Palestinians were killed. We were talking about a man and 2 of his children, one of them a kid. The house was shelled by 2 F-16 missiles that have caused all this destruction. As we can see, the whole living room, the kitchen, the rooms, nothing have left in this place. The army of the Israeli occupation proceeded to bomb the entire house. Unfortunately, this attack took place in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., when the inhabitants were sleeping. Even the neighbors were terrified by the strong explosion, and the surrounding houses were partially damaged, as we can see. We are talking about a house that was inside a residential neighborhood where people were sleeping peaceful at long hours of the night. As I said, and yet the army of the Israeli occupation has proceeded to bomb it without warning. When this civilian population, innocent, was sleeping in their rooms, and unfortunately dozens of wounded have fallen due to the Israeli attack on residential homes.
Let's take a short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you find news in different formats, new updates, some more. Other studies coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Venezuela described an outburst in petition made by Guyana before the International Court of Justice seeking to prevent the holding of the referendum on the Essequibo. The Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Desi Rodriguez, emphasized that her attendance to the court is to defeat the pretension of Guyana's judicial colonialism by using the court to stop the unstoppable. They consulted the referendum in territorial defense of the Essequibo, Guyana. The vice military denied that the petition of Guyana, which asked the International Court for provisional measures with the purpose of preventing Venezuela from carrying out the referendum, has any legal grounds. The CA began this Tuesday a series of public hearings where it will first listen to the follow of the official of Guyana during this day.
They have criminalized and paid immense sums of money to criminalize what has been the historical position of Venezuela on not submitting automatically and obligatorily this territorial dispute to the knowledge of the court. Why is that historical position? Because we have already come in 1899 from a fraud through an arbitral judgment, and Venezuela since then decided the matters of the highest transcendence with its independence process as its territorial integrity. We would never submit them to third parties' decisions.
The Vice President, Desi Rodriguez, pointed out that Guyana insists on fleeing from the Geneva Agreement for a satisfactory solution for both countries.
Who is threatening the peace and stability of the region with the Southern Command? Venezuela? No. The joint military exercises are precisely in Guyana, and we saw their president dressed as military man giving instructions in a territory that is in dispute, and it is in controversy. They are fleeing from the Geneva Agreement because they refuse to find a practical and satisfactory solution for both parties.
Rodriguez called on the citizens to participate in the consultative referendum to defend the historical rights over the Essequibo, Guyana.
So we'll stand firm, and tomorrow we will defend Venezuela, and on December 3rd is the date for the whole country. Look at the importance of participating in the consultative referendum. It is so important that Guyana has asked for it not to be held. I also call on the Venezuelan people to make the answer be forceful again, as our history is written. Let us give examples to humanity.
The Venezuelan National Assembly has called for mobilization in defense of the consultative referendum on the Essequibo territory to be held on December 3rd. During Tuesday's ordinary session, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, called for a rally this Wednesday in the vicinity of the National Pantheon in the city of Caracas. Those attending the demonstration will go to the country's Supreme Court of Justice in order to deliver an injunction with the purpose of defending the constitutional, political, and electoral rights of the Venezuelan people. During the session, the President of the Parliament rejected the interference of the International Court of Justice in the controversy with Guyana over the territory of Essequibo. In Ecuador, citizens organized to see the rally in rejection of electricity cuts by the Lasso government. Demonstrators assured that the blackouts have cost millions of dollars in losses for the country and the citizenship in general. In this context, a representative of the commercial sector pointed out that the power outages cost losses of more than $80 million per day. In this context, the Andean nations experienced constant blackouts due to the lack of maintenance of the main hydroelectric plants in the midst of the negligence of Guillermo Lasso's government. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, sub-stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's more recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Tuesday reiterated his pledge not to invade neighboring nations over the Red Sea, but insisted that his government would not abandon his demand for port access. Abiy's remarks last month about the Red Sea raised regional concerns, particularly as tensions emerged with the neighboring Eritrea, which has long coastline. In a televised speech on October 13, Abiy said the landlocked Ethiopia is a nation whose existence is tied to the Red Sea, a key waterway for global trade. He said Africa's second most populous country needed access to a port, adding that if they plan to live together in peace, they have to find a way to mutually share with each other in a balanced manner. Abiy has since tried to alleviate regional fears and has reiterated that they are committed to mutual interests for the dialogue and negotiation. Mali's military has seized control of the northern town of Kidal, marking the first time the army has held the Tuareg rebels' stronghold in nearly a decade, states broadcaster Odom reported on Tuesday. Journalist Ibrahim Traore read a message from the president of the transition to the Malian people, who said that the armed and security forces have seized Kidal and that the mission is not over. Mohamed Moalud Ramadan, a rebel spokesman based in neighboring Mauritania, confirmed the presence of Mali military in Kidal. Soldiers from Mali's armies, accompanied by partners from Russian military contractor Wagner, have been battling to RF fighters for several days in an effort to take control of the town following the departure of United Nations peacekeepers 2 weeks ago. On Tuesday, Nigeria's two large labor unions, the Labor Congress and the Trade Union Congress, declared an indefinite strike nationwide. Despite government claims that the economic measures are necessary for financial stability and the financial social projects, the unions are maintaining the work stoppage despite recent court orders seeking to prevent it. For the party, unions announced that the strike includes the interruption of vital services such as hospital, railroad stations, and schools. In a sense, unions call on President Bola Tinubu to raise the monthly minimum wage from $35 to at least $100. Unions have briefly suspended an earlier strike last month for talks with the government, but resumed their action, saying the government have failed to meet their demands within the stipulated one-month deadline. In Iceland, at least 3,000 citizens evacuated due to the intense seismic activity on Guyana's peninsula. After days of relentless damage in the city of Grindavik, in the southwest of the country, citizens were evacuated as a precautionary measure due to the volcanic eruption warnings. The Meteorological Office of Ireland's IMO also said that the seismic activity have cooled down, but the alert remains in place for possible strengthening. On November 9th, the IMO reported that about 1,400 earthquakes were recorded in 24 hours. And we have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social networks, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.